Cool. So just to kind of explain the thought process behind closing, this is really just meant for your closing to be duplicatable, right? The more you can duplicate what you're doing inside of a teaching and training, whether it's like day one or it's outside of training, right, inside of an Atmo, the quicker you can duplicate that and the more streamlined your closing is. Because you as a leader should know kind of what works in the field. So we're going to kind of go over a couple things that we really know works. And if you just use it over and over and over again and be able to duplicate that into somebody else, they're also going to be able to see it work and be able to replicate it inside the field instead of kind of being all over the place with the closes, have 5 different closes for every response that they're trying to focus on, and then they kind of just stumble on their words. So a lot of this is for up front when they're really learning how to actually close somebody. They're obviously going to learn more and more closes as they go, but if you use these 1 or 2 closes for every single customer after every single one of these responses, you'll see your person start to become more confident in that close, and they're going to be able to duplicate it, and they're going to see success that much faster. So it's kind of the thought process behind these closes. We'll kind of go into each individual one and just kind of see what the response is from myself in terms of body language and tone of voice, and just kind of go through some wording and everything like that. So we'll kind of dive into that, and then we'll get a little bit more in depth with it.
Actually, can you just send me some information, or do you have a card by any chance?
So awesome. I don't. We only do it inside of Sam's Club, but what kind of questions can I answer to help you make a better decision?
Promotion sounds really good, but can I just think about it and then come back?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand. What is it that you kind of need to think about?
What about? I know that I still have some left on the phones.
Right.
What about that?
Yeah, I completely understand. So kind of 2 things. You can either, 1, completely pay off and be done with your carrier, or you can try to set up monthly payments with that carrier. So let's just go ahead and see if you qualify. How do you spell your first name?
What about the phones that I still owe to Sprint?
Yeah, perfect. So let's go ahead and open your app and just see how much you have to pay off so you can make a better decision.
Sounds good. Let me just talk to my wife and then see what she thinks.
Yeah, definitely understand. How long have you and your wife been together?
We've been together for about like 10 years.
10 years. So you know them better than I do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. If they were here right now with us, what do you feel like they would say about the promotion?
It's pretty good. Yeah. Let me talk to my wife about it and then see what she thinks about it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Are they kind of the saver or the spender in the relationship?
She's definitely a spender.
Spender? Awesome. So she wouldn't mind getting new phones?
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely understand, man. I really don't want to waste your time. I want to make it quick for you. Let's go ahead and see if you qualify, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, how do you spell your first name?
Jay. I just really like Verizon. I've never had any issues with it.
100% understand. The only thing is, if you went to Verizon and did this same offer, so you got 4 new iPhones, you're going to charge $30 or $40 per iPhone. With us, we're getting you down to a very similar price to what you're paying now, but you're not having to pay that $30, $40 per phone, right? So let's go ahead and see how much you have to pay today. How do you spell your first name?
J-A-O-S-E.
Okay, cool. So to go into a little bit more of thought process, when you're training an individual, there's obviously going to be more rebuttals than this that they're eventually going to hear, right? But this is going to be 99% of what they hear every single day, right? So when you're teaching and training them, you don't want to tell them every single rebuttal, write out a list of 15, 20, 30 rebuttals of everything that they're going to see, right? You just want them to nail down the 90 to 99% of what they're going to hear every single day. So we know there's more rebuttals out there than this. But to be honest, if you give them and they master this, they're going to be able to close about 90% of the people that walk in the door every single day. And for a new person, that is exactly what you want. You want something that's not complex. They can actually sit there and master it. They can go home. They can practice it over and over and over again. And they're not having 30 different things to memorize, right? So these are really the 99% of what you'll hear every single day. And if you can get a new person when you're teaching and training to duplicate and be able to respond like that when they're closing this type of customer, they'll be able to close 90% or at least know what to say to 90% of the customers. And by repetition, they'll eventually learn to close 90% of those people. So just keep it simple. These couple closes will definitely be what they hear most of the time. So when you're teaching and training, this is really all they need to know, and they'll hear this over and over again in the field. If they can master this, you'll see a successful new start actually be able to close people pretty quickly.
No, man, I just really like Verizon. I've never had any issues with them.
No, I completely understand. Let's kind of imagine it like this, right? Let's say I was Verizon, right? And I said I was going to give you older phones and actually raise your price a little bit. Do you feel like you would still stick with Verizon?
Yeah, I mean, no.
Probably not. So let's go ahead and see if you qualify real quick. How do you spell your first name?
Okay, who is this?
So we're with AT&T.
Oh, no, man, I had a really bad experience with
Yeah,
that.
man, I completely understand. Did you go through Target when you did it?
I did not.
You did not. Okay, it's definitely a different experience when you go through Target. You're going to get promotions on the phones and then also another $10 off for how many lines you have. So let's go ahead and see if you qualify, man. How do you spell your first name?
Jose. Who is this again?
We're with AT&T.
Oh, hell no.
I completely understand, man. Have you had AT&T before?
Yeah.
Okay, about how long ago was that?
About like 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Okay, awesome. So about 2 years ago, AT&T would put $148 billion into fixing their network. So they left a lot better. What's your zip code real quick? I'll check your area for you.
80224.
Okay, awesome. So this is the coverage in your area. Let's just go ahead and see if you qualify, and we'll go from there. How do you spell your first name?
Jose. How long is this going on for? The promotion?
So perfect. I really don't know. Promotions change pretty consistently. So this is the offer today. Let's just go ahead and see if you qualify, how much you have to pay today. How do you spell your first name?
Jose.
Okay, awesome.
And how long does this last? How long is the promotion going on?
Awesome, yeah. So not really sure. They change all the time. But honestly, what would you need to make a better decision today? Okay, cool. So just to kind of discuss a little bit of terminology, because kind of how you portray the situation goes a long way with that customer and how you respond to it up front, right? If a customer gives you a rebuttal and you kind of have a negative outlook on that rebuttal, it's automatically going to turn off the customer. So if you guys look at each one of these closes and kind of go through each one, you'll notice a common theme throughout them all, okay? It's my initial response to whatever they say, right? And if you look at each one of them, there's usually like a for sure or a completely understand or definitely. What else we got? Completely understand, Mr. Customer, okay? That's just like your first terminology of like that being a positive situation for the customer. So whatever it is they say, it's always positive, and just that little terminology at the beginning of how you respond to that customer in terms of like your body language and tone of voice, just that little word of like perfect or I completely understand or that's awesome or whatever it may be, adding that to the very beginning, your first response, it's gonna go a long way for that customer because they're bringing up a negative, but now you're seeing it in a positive light, and it changes their perspective on the situation and the fact that you think it's a positive thing. So just adding in that little bit of terminology, that completely understand, that perfect, it's going to go a long way with the customer. So just kind of a little explanation. Cool. So one thing to kind of go over with these closes is just kind of, some of these are obviously a little bit of open-ended questions. So you're going to have the customer respond, and you aren't really closing right away with that question. So if we look at this first one, it's obviously, what could I answer to help you make a better decision? The customer's obviously going to respond with something in that moment. All you want to do is answer that question that answer that they give you. You want to answer it briefly, and then you want to go back to the close. So seeing if they qualify, seeing how much they have to pay today. So don't spend too much time answering their question, right? If they ask about the service provider, don't go into 100 details about 5G and all this kind of stuff. Answer the question quickly, get their zip code, check the area, and then right back into let's see if you qualify. So with the open-ended closes, if you're not closing right away, answer their question briefly, answer it to where they understand it, and then go right back into the close. Don't spend 2 or 3 minutes explaining something, and then you're bringing up problems that may not exist in the first place. So just answer the question briefly, reclose it, and then go back into it. Awesome. So a big part of closing somebody is really going through what we call a cycle of rebuttal. And what the cycle of rebuttals is you're obviously going to get the rebuttal from the customer. Okay, your first response is always going to be to agree with them. Okay, you got to kind of get eye to eye with the customer. You understand their situation, whatever it may be. You're getting on the same page by just agreeing with them up front. Instead of saying, no, sir, Mr. Customer, we have the best service. Or, no, Mr. Customer, it's going to be the best price. It'll never change, blah, blah, blah. If you can simply just agree with that customer, they're automatically going to trust you a little bit more. So that's always your first response. You're going to agree with the customer. Then you're going to fix their issue, whatever it may be, whether it's service, whether it's their bill going up, whatever it may be, fix the issue, okay, and then go right back into closing, right? This fix should be a 5-10 second fix, right? Don't need to go on a long ramble about anything, but fix their issue, make it clear to the customer about what's going to be going on, and then go back to the close. Okay, sir, let's go ahead and see if you qualify. Let's go ahead and see how much you'd have to pay today. Okay, and then most of the time they're going to give you another rebuttal after that. Okay, you're going to have to probably go through this with an average customer 4 or 5 times before you actually close that customer. Okay, so the first time you go through it, especially with a new start, right, they may be able to get through it once, okay, but then they're going to be uncomfortable closing that second time, okay? If you can get them comfortable with closing 4 or 5 times, you're going to start to see them close a lot more people on a daily basis. So get through this, the cycle of rebuttals. The more times you can get through that with the customer, they're eventually going to run out of rebuttals and excuses to give you, and then they're just going to give you their information so they can actually sign up. So with the cycle of rebuttals, keep it very simple. Always agree with the customer first, fix their issue, and then go right back into closing that customer, and then go through it as many times as it takes for them to run out of rebuttals, and you'll close a lot more people.